Before I talk about the Tesla, I need to set up the road that led me there. Otherwise, this whole story sounds like one random car decision, and it was not. I recently replaced my car. The car I let go was my Model Y. I had it for 4.5 years, and I put almost 130,000 kilometers on it. When people hear that, they usually jump to one of three guesses. Did the car break? Did the battery go bad? Or was it because of Elon Musk? No. Musk is a separate video. This one is just about the car. And this is not a breakup video where I suddenly pretend the whole relationship was terrible. If I hated the car, I would not have driven it for almost 130,000 kilometers. So let me say this up front. If I could go back to 4.5 years ago, I would probably still buy it. I really did like this car. Dog mode, Sentry mode, remote climate control, supercharging, the phone key. These were not just features on a spec sheet. Some of them actually changed how I used a car. But after 4.5 years, I still replaced it. The reason is simple. My life changed. To explain that, I need to go back to my first car. Otherwise, this sounds like I woke up one morning and randomly decided I was done with Tesla. That is not what happened. Before I owned a car, I rented whenever I needed one. Enterprise, budget, Avis, whatever was available. My first real car was a 2016 Mazda 3 GX, base model, bought in October 2016. The funny thing is, I was not even trying to buy a Mazda at first. I wanted to take over someone else's lease on a Corolla S. The original owner had already paid more than 5,000 Canadian dollars into it, so my payment would have been around $290 a month. Today, that number may not sound dramatic. Back then, I was making a little over $20,000 a year. I did not have a car yet. So $290 a month looked very attractive. It was not my dream car. It was my dream payment. Then I applied for financing for the first time, and I had no idea what I was doing. The finance manager asked for my income. I wrote a little over $20,000. Then he asked how much rent I paid. At the time, 3 of us shared a place. The full rent was over $1,000 a month, but my share was only a little over $400. The problem was that my name was on the lease. I did not understand that the credit application wanted what I personally paid. So I very honestly wrote down the full rent, as if I was paying for all 3 people. I was not lying, I was just accidentally reporting my roommates' housing costs too. The bank could not see my roommates. It only saw a guy making just over $20,000 a year, paying over $1,000 a month in rent, and asking to finance a car. I imagine someone looked at that file and thought, is this guy planning to stop eating? They rejected me. The Corolla was not really my favorite anyway. I had tried a Civic, but I did not like how light everything felt. Steering, throttle, brake pedal. I wanted something affordable that still had a bit of feeling. Mazda had that Japanese BMW reputation, and among the cars I could afford, it did feel more fun. So I went to a Mazda dealer in Ottawa and negotiated a 3-year lease on a Mazda 3. Exactly $300 a month. That credit check failed too. So the $290 Corolla lease failed, the $300 Mazda lease failed. My car shopping process was basically, I get the price down to a number I can accept, and then the bank tells me my acceptance does not matter. Looking back, I probably hurt myself by doing too many credit checks in a short time. A hard inquiry is not always a disaster, but when you are new, your file is thin, and you keep applying everywhere, it does not help. At the time, my strategy was simple. This dealer said no, try the next one. I thought I was increasing my chances. I may have just been beating up my own credit file. Eventually, someone in Toronto told me the lease would not work, but financing could work. $2,500 down, about $160 every 2 weeks, financed over 7 years. After being rejected again and again, hearing someone say, I can get you into the car, sounded like salvation. Now I know it was not salvation. It was more like a very nicely carpeted hole. I heard only $160 every 2 weeks. And signed. 7-year financing on a base Mazda 3. I was inexperienced. The salesperson was not. The car was a little over $20,000 before tax. My final number was already around $23,000 before even thinking about interest. A little more than 2 years later, I sold it for around $15,000 and still had to add money to clear the loan. I lost money. But I cannot say the car was worthless. For the price, it drove well. The stereo was okay, and more importantly, it was mine. Before that, going anywhere meant renting a car and watching the clock. With my own car, I could leave when I wanted. I still remember that feeling. But the car also had very memorable problems. It was loud. In Ottawa winters, the infotainment system could freeze completely. Not lag, freeze. Sometimes I had to drive for 20 or 30 minutes before the cabin warmed enough for it to work normally. It was the base trim, so no heated steering wheel, no heated seats. I could tolerate it. My girlfriend at the time, now my wife, could not. We bought a heated seat cushion, and I put a suede-style cover on the steering wheel. If the car did not come with a feature, we made our own version. One day while I was driving in the rain, the wiper motor burned out. Rain, no wipers. Great feature. The repair was covered, but the part had to come from Japan. I waited more than a month, maybe close to 2. During that time, the car was basically useless whenever the weather was bad. The service experience did not help either. One dealer did not even have a shuttle. You dropped the car off and then had to figure out how to get home. So when I eventually replaced the Mazda, part of me wanted an upgrade, and part of me was just tired of the noise, the frozen screen, and the service experience. That first car still affects how I think about cars today. I did look at the Mazda CX-90 during this latest search. Logically, I know a new CX-90 is not the same thing as my old base Mazda 3, but buying a car is not a math exam. Sometimes the numbers make sense and your gut still says no. Mine said no. Later, my income improved a bit, and I finally had some room to look at nicer cars. I was not rich. The question just changed. Before it was, can I own any car at all? Now it was, can I own something I actually want to drive? I first looked seriously at an Audi A4 Technique. It was well equipped, and the deal was honestly great. 4 years, 0 down, a little over $630 a month, and winter tires included. I had drawn a line in my head at $600, not because $30 was life or death. It was just the number I had decided was responsible. 600 sounded fine. 630 sounded like I had lost control of my life. So I kept asking the dealer to bring it down. They would not, and I never signed. Looking back, passing on a good A4 because of $30-something proves that young me had a deep spiritual relationship with round numbers. Around the same time, someone was transferring the lease on a BMW 430 X-Drive Grand Coupe. The payment was almost exactly $600 a month. There it was, my sacred number. I took it. The transfer was messy. Some payments got mixed up. I sent e-transfers to the previous owner, while BMW said some money had not arrived. I never recovered everything, but it was my first luxury brand car, and it immediately showed me how different cars can feel. The Mazda had a little over 100 horsepower. If you wanted to accelerate at an intersection, you had to discuss it with the car first. The 430 had more than 250 horsepower, the head-up display, the Harman Kardon stereo, the steering, the chassis. Everything felt like a different class. It was genuinely fun. It also taught me very quickly that fun to drive and easy to own are two very different things. The 430 used run-flat tires. In theory, they give you some ability to keep driving after losing pressure. In practice, on Ottawa roads, I kept hitting potholes and replacing tires. I'm not saying every run-flat tire is worse than every normal tire. I'm saying my set gave me a lot of opportunities to question the name. Luckily, I had tire insurance for part of the lease. That one definitely paid for itself. Then I had a problem near the right wheel, around the axle area. The first BMW dealer said it was physical damage, refused warranty coverage, and quoted more than $10,000. More than $10,000 to repair a leased car that still had a mileage limit. I went quiet for a minute. An independent shop eventually fixed it for around $1,500 using parts from the US. Then later, another BMW dealer noticed an issue in the same area and handled it under warranty. One dealer wanted over $10,000. Another basically took care of it. Sometimes the luxury part of a luxury brand depends on which door you walk through. The lease had another problem, mileage. By the time I took it over, I could drive roughly 1,000 kilometers a month if I wanted to stay under the final limit. Then we got a dog. Dog park, errands, weekend trips. Suddenly those kilometers were not theoretical. I had to keep doing math every time I drove. and the suspension was hard. Car handled well, but driving from Ottawa to Tremblant for skiing was rough. More than 2 hours there, mountain roads, no adaptive cruise, no lane centering. After skiing, I still had to drive back by myself with a tired body and an unhappy back. By then, I wanted something different. Not just power, not just handling. I wanted winter confidence, long-distance comfort. Not just handling. I wanted winter confidence, long-distance comfort, more space, and something that would not feel like a boat. The lease was also coming to an end, so I was already shopping. It was not one dramatic snowstorm where the BMW slipped once and I ran to Tesla out of revenge. Real life is usually less cinematic than that. We had a dog. We were preparing to move. The 4 Series felt small. My back was done voting politely. I wanted an SUV. That was when I started looking at the Model Y. At the time, the Model I still felt new. There were not many on the road. A lot of people had never seen one up close. To me, it looked like a piece of technology that happened to have wheels, big screen, phone key, OTA updates, driver assistance, glass roof, all-wheel drive, enough space for the dog and moving boxes. It felt like it landed right where my life was heading. So I booked a test drive. The day before the test drive, I drove home from skiing in heavy snow. My BMW had X-Drive and winter tires, but that day it felt slippery. It did not give me much confidence. The next day, the roads were still snowy when I arrived for the Tesla test drive. The demo car did not even have winter tires. It was on all-season tires. I was not there to test acceleration. I was not there to race anyone from a traffic light. I wanted to know how it felt in snow. Once I started driving, my first reaction was, why does this feel so stable? That was just my impression from one test drive. I am not here to prove Tesla all-wheel drive is technically better than X-Drive. I am saying that, in that snow, it gave me more confidence. Tesla was still unusual then. I was not the first wave of owners, but I was early enough that people noticed. Sometimes Tesla drivers even waved at each other. The inside also felt nothing like a normal car. No traditional gauges, one big screen, one pedal driving, phone key, OTA updates. I sat there and thought, okay, this does feel like the future. So I ordered one around February or March 2021. I finally took delivery in December 2021. It was delivered at the end of 2021, but it was a 2022 Model Y long range. That was peak supply chain chaos. White was the free color. I paid $1,200 for gray because I thought it would help me get the car sooner. Later, gray became free. So every time someone said the gray looked good, part of me thought, it should. I paid for it. Then Tesla made it free. I was the perfect customer at the perfect wrong time. My car also landed right before some hardware changes. A friend who got his car less than a month earlier still had USB-C controller support in the center console. Mine did not. My passenger lumbar support was gone too. My infotainment computer was Intel Atom. Soon after, Tesla moved to AMD Ryzen. My driver assistance hardware was HW3. That is separate from Intel Atom, but my car managed to land just before both transitions became obvious. At the time, I did not worry much. I was buying a Tesla. Wasn't the whole idea that software updates would keep improving the car? I thought the hardware was the base and the software would keep making the car feel new. That belief became more complicated later. The first time I drove it, one-pedal driving felt strange in a good way. The acceleration also made me laugh, not because of top speed, because power arrived immediately. You pressed the pedal and the car just went, no waiting for a transmission to make up its mind. Once I got used to it, normal traffic light starts became a tiny daily pleasure. Most gas cars simply did not respond that quickly. The audio system also surprised me. My BMW had Harman Kardon, and I liked it. But to my ears, the stock Model Y system sounded better. Vocals, pop, bass. I am not pretending this is a lab test. I just enjoyed it. Autopilot, though, was not as magical as the internet made it sound. I had used adaptive cruise in a friend's BMW, so autopilot did not feel like a different century. Early on, I sometimes thought it was kind of dumb. The worst part was phantom braking. On a 2-lane road, with a car coming the other way, it could suddenly brake hard. Not gently slow down. I mean the kind of braking that makes everyone in the car briefly reconsider their life choices. The automatic wipers were their own comedy. In Ottawa winter, salty slush gets thrown all over the windshield. Sometimes the glass was already white and the wipers refused to care. Then, when they finally woke up, They wiped like they were trying to remove the windshield. I called them AI wipers. In this case, AI stood for artificial incompetence. Updates made things better over time, but that pattern never fully disappeared. Sometimes the car felt smart. Sometimes it did something ridiculous. And yet, I did not hate it. 4.5 years and almost 130,000 kilometers is a long time to spend with a car you supposedly hate. The first thing I loved was how little routine maintenance it needed. Tires, washer fluid, cabin filters, sure. But no oil changes, no traditional gas car service schedule. After my Mazda and BMW experiences, driving something that usually just worked was a relief. Dog mode mattered even more. When we first moved into our house, we were nervous about leaving the dog alone. If I had to run an errand, I could bring the dog, leave climate control running, and turn on dog mode. The screen showed the cabin temperature and told people I would be back soon. If you do not have a dog, that may sound like one menu button. For us, it changed how we went out. Sentry mode also helped me for real. Someone hit my car in a parking lot and drove away without leaving a note. A hit and run. Without Sentry mode, I might have found only the damage. No idea who did it, when it happened, or where to start. Sentry mode recorded the whole thing, and that footage helped me find the person responsible. After that, it was not just a cool feature. It was evidence. It may have saved me thousands of dollars. That said, Sentry mode has limits. On my older Model Y, it turned off below 20% battery. In normal life, that is reasonable. At a ski hill in winter, 20% becomes a very important number. If you arrive with 18%, it is not about whether you are willing to spend battery on security. Cars simply will not let you. Remote climate, the phone app, the phone key, OTA updates, and supercharging all added up to a car that was very easy to live with. At first, we could not charge at home, so I had to drive to superchargers. Later, once we had home charging, it became exactly what people love about EVs. Plug in at night, leave with a full battery in the morning, and forget gas stations exist during normal city driving. So no, I am not someone who drove an EV for 2 days and declared the whole idea dead. I know why people love these cars. I loved a lot of it too.